This is Kevin Devecioğlu, Managing Director of Bimser International. First of all, I would like you to keep your microphone muted, please, so that we can have a clear, nice voice for our presenters. Thank you. And during the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to type your questions in chat box. So when we get your question in the chat box, we will address your questions in Q&A session. Thank you. Again, welcome to our webinar. And today we'll talk about smart inventory management techniques in a digital world. And we'll talk about BIM, asset and maintenance management software. We have great panelists and we have a lot of information to cover today. So I'd like to start with Bill Schoolman. He is the inventory management expert at Schoolman Inventory Method Company. And we'll start with his presentation to learn more about the smart inventory management techniques that we can all use in our companies, in the marketplace to be more efficient and productive. Bill, would you like to take it from here? Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Our topic today, the hidden treasure in your inventory. Use latest digital tools. You can receive copies of the 6 slides I'll be using from our gracious webinar sponsor, the Beam. Managing inventory is managing money, and it can be extremely stressful. Problems such as wasted, costly, valuable space, which is occupied by excess inventory, is one of the worst. Then there's inaccuracy in stock status, out of stock conditions that result in lost sales, more back orders, more customer complaints, excessive material handling expense, obsolescence, shrinkage, and the list goes on. Using the latest digital tools that are part of a high-performance inventory system will minimize the problems and greatly reduce stress. And that is a good thing. Most importantly, the latest digital tools will find the hidden treasure in your excess inventory, convert it into cash, and put you on a path to achieve maximum performance in the future. Next slide, please. Okay, starting at the top, you see the benefits of a good inventory system. Increased cash flow, increased turns, increased customer service, reduced operating expenses, and increased GMROI. Now, if you've never heard of GMROI before, GMROI is the gross margin return on inventory. It's a metric, a ratio. It's a metric of gross profit dollars to inventory dollars. And the issue is that if that ratio is in a certain minimum number, you're probably in a lot of trouble and could be having cash flow problems. So let's just do one quick example so you understand it. So I said GMROI is the ratio of gross profit dollars to inventory dollars. Let's just say that your gross margin for the whole company is $300,000 and your inventory is $200,000. Divide one by the other and you get $1.50. $1.50 is not a good number. You need roughly at least $5 or close to $2. And the reason for that is GMROI pays for operating expenses. So if you've only got $1.50 of GMROI, gross margins per dollar of inventory, that's not enough to make a profit. You want to be at least at $1.75 to $2, possibly you hit a home run at $2.25. So that's a very important metric. The 8 elements of a high-performance system that I call the Schoolman inventory method is identifying SOS, surplus, obsolete, slow moving, that's excess, stocking indicators, SKU forecasting, DRP replenishment, that's not ERP. DRP stands for Distribution Resource Planning. It's a special set, and that's based on turnover objectives. Measure and use carrying costs, accurate stock status, tracking customer service, and installing financial controls. Those are the 8 elements of a high-performance system. Next slide, please. Here's another way to look at a high-performance system. Over there on the left, you've got the 8 elements that I just mentioned. At the top, you see identify SOS, surplus, obsolete, slow-moving, which is excess. Turn to cash by getting rid of it. We'll discuss that later. And then that goes into financial controls. At the bottom, you've got forecasting and DRP, which goes into the purchasing system to give you what are called replenishment rules. And that's based on turnover and service objectives. And that flows into financial controls. Now, when you do that, look at the bottom. Here's what you get. You get increased inventory turns, which frees up very valuable working capital. You reduce stockouts, which increase sales and improve gross margin dollars. You reduce operating expenses by reducing carrying costs of inventory. And last, and most important, you increase gross profit dollars by maximizing the gross margin return on inventory. I call it GMROI. Next slide, please. Now take a look at some real data from 2 companies where the digital tools told the story of what was happening to the company's P&L. But before we go there, let's discuss the process of how you get there. I call it phase 1. And at the bottom, you see it's called inventory due diligence. This is where we collect 4 pieces of variable data for each SKU, plus as much descriptive information as possible, and run a series of diagnostic reports. It always produces the wow factor because it accurately and quickly identifies the excess inventory, low margin items, and establishes strategic priorities and efficiencies. It covers the first 2 elements of the inventory method. So let's take a look at the specific things. First, identify excess inventory by specific SKU, referred to as surplus, obsolete, and slow-moving. Next, identify specific SKUs that don't contribute sufficient gross margin. Next, identify specific SKUs that lower turns. Next, measure the overall marketability and cash flow projection of the total inventory. That's sort of a cash flow analysis, looking at it periods of time. Provide the input for creating the stocking indicators, which we're going to discuss in a second, which clearly establish priorities and take big advantage of efficiencies for achieving future turnover goals. And that's taking advantage of what's called Pareto's curve, or the 80-20 rule. 20% of the items, 80% of the sales. I've actually, one assignment I once did, I couldn't believe it. I saw top 20% of the items was 93% of all sales. And last, it provides the input to install an aggressive marketing program to convert excess inventory into cash. This makes an inventory project beyond self-funding. Excess inventory is wasted working capital and wasted space. Could I have the next slide, please? So this is company X. This is data where it says typical analysis. He never cleaned house. Let me tell you a little bit about company X. He's an industrial distributor. He's an importer located in Minneapolis. At one time, those profits were between 40 to 45%. But then the market changed. Competition increased. Revenues went down. His lead times were 3 months. And when I got there, his GMROI was only $1.35. Pretty serious. and he had $3 million in inventory. We set up a target reduction, he was aggressive, of 40% reduction in inventory. Eventually got Gimroy up to $2.10. Spectacular. Look at some of the original data when we first started. Typical analysis, never cleaned house. 30% of the SKUs had a 12-month supply or more and represented 47% of the inventory investment. Next group was 40% of the SKUs had a 6-month supply and represented 63% of the inventory investment. That's kind of some of the statistics that you get out of this due diligence analysis. But take a look at the two items that are highlighted in yellow. This is the reports that give you the action plan for getting rid of excess inventory. 24% of his inventory investment was in SKUs greater than a 60-month supply. In other words, if sales completed for the next 5 years, this is what you'd still be left with. 43% of his inventory investment was greater than a 6-month supply. So now you can see why we set up such an aggressive target goals. Just keep in mind, SOS is wasted working capital, producing minimal gross profit, using up extremely valuable space. If you've got items in inventory, at least for 3 years, the carrying cost of inventory, you've paid for it twice. Could you please go to the next slide? Thank you. Here's another company. This is company Y. He's got 5 million in inventory. He's got 18. Go to the total line. You see he's got 18,000 SKUs. He's an importer with 90-day lead times. His profits were 42%, but were declining. And his Gimroy at the time was $1.20. Pretty serious. Overlook on the left. See the raw data? The top 20% of his items was 87% of his sales. Next 20% was 6%, and the bottom 60% was 7% of sales. So think about it. 80% of 18,000 SKUs was only 13% of sales. So what we did was we broke it up into what are called stocking indicators, and that's 6 different categories, A through F. So the top 2,700 items called the A items, those are items. Those are items that we always want to have for customer, but they're the ones with our highest sales at cost. We're going to shoot for 6 inventory turns, which is a 2-month supply. And after we reorganized the inventory, they accounted for the top 80% of sales. The Bs, we shot for 4 times, which is a 3-month supply. And the Cs, where there were 8,100 Cs, we only shot for a 2-time turn, basically to get them off our back, which was okay because that was a targeted turn of 6 months supply. A month's supply of a C item is pennies. A month's supply of an A item is monstrous. Keep that in mind. Then we have 2 other categories. New items, where you don't have a lot of data. That's anything with less than 12 months worth of data. And he also had non-stocking items that he originally brought in. They were like monstrous, high unit cost items, non-stocking. He ended up with having them some in inventory. The point is, you don't want to have any in inventory, but you got to get rid of them. Go to the bottom line there, where you see the targeted month supply of 2.39. What's important to realize is that 80% of achieving that target comes from your A group, which is 80% sales. Only 5% of the 2.39 comes from the B group, and 2% comes from the C group. In conclusion, a high-performance inventory system is the single most important element of any company's supply chain. Today's digital tools used in the Schoolman inventory method reduce stress and maximize, or you'll remember that. That's the amount of gross profit margin dollars for every dollar of inventory. And it's the most important metric of an inventory system. If you're not using these latest tools to manage your inventory, you're most likely sitting with no less than 20 to 30% excess inventory. And excess inventory has to be converted into cash, which frees up valuable space. Keep in mind that each of excess inventory based on inventory carrying costs is at least 25%, 25 cents. So you're paying 25 cents for every dollar of inventory, of excess inventory. Do the math. It's a significant hit to the P&L. The rewards of proper inventory management are substantial. There's about a 15 to 18 to 1 cost benefit ratio. Failure to manage inventory properly can destroy a business. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Bill. Informative presentation, and it's very important to learn the importance of managing the inventory in a smart way. So it was very informative. Thank you. So let me give you some information about our company, Bimser International. Very brief information. Then we'll take it from there to our solution partner, Kerr Consulting, and then we'll go into Beam to talk about how to manage inventory environment. My name is Kevin Devecioglu, and I am the Managing Director of Bimser International Corporation, based in New York. We are an international company. We have international presence. We are based in New York City, and as a company, we believe in simplicity, and all of our products designed for helping companies simplify their operations. And our vision is to be the leader in our market, which is the global enterprise software marketplace. As a company, we have global presence. Our software development center is in Istanbul metro area, where the yellow dot is. And on the map, there is also a blue dot. It shows our European operations, our European entity. And in New York, where the red dot is, that's where we are located as Bimser International. As a group, we are about 150 professionals working day and night to develop our product. And we have been developing enterprise software products since 1998. Bimser is a certified SAP vendor, Microsoft Gold partner, and Acumatica ERP cloud system independent software vendor. So enterprise software product development is our specialty. And when we look at our product range, we have been developing 4 products since 1998. IBA is our workflow and document management platform. Beam is our asset management, maintenance management, and inventory management software, which we will talk more in detail in a minute. And QDMS is our quality management software for ISO, SQF, BRC compliance in a digital environment. And finally, Ensemble is our business process management software. As a position in the marketplace, Ensemble is more of a managerial tool. And in terms of process function, we have IBA for workflow and document management. We have Beam for inventory management and asset management. And we have QDMS for quality management. 4 of our products, they can work standalone. They can be integrated to each other. And they can be integrated to any ERP, any CRM platform that's available in the marketplace. So what we have done so far since 1998, we have implemented many different projects. For instance, as for IBA, we have implemented more than 450 projects globally. As for Beam, we have implemented more than 300 projects. QDMS, we have implemented more than 750 projects globally. And as for Ensemble, we have implemented more than 150 projects and still counting. So these are a lot of implementations, and we have a lot of experience in enterprise software marketplace. And when we go to the next slide, we can see some of our reputable international and national references. 3M is one of our references, using one of our products called IBA in 17 different countries. United Nations is one of our references. Bridgestone is one of our references in manufacturing industry. AstraZeneca is using IBA for document management and clinic and doctor office visits. So it is a good reference in pharmaceutical industry. Societe Generale is our reference in banking and financing industry. ArcLight Movie Theaters is based California. It's a movie theater chain. They use IBA in their purchasing operations in association with their ERP system. Ford and Nissan Renault Alliance is also some of our references that is available at the moment that I can share with you. So this is basically who we are and what we do as Bimser International. And if you have any questions for Bill and for myself, please use the chat box. Type your questions in the in the chat box, and we will address your questions in Q&A session. Now I'd like to turn it to our solution partner, Kerr Consulting, based in Texas, and Phil Smith will be presenting their activities to you briefly. And then after this presentation, we'll show you how you can manage your inventory in a smart way in a digital environment by using B. Phil, would you like to continue?
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. All righty. Well, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Kerr Consulting, we've been, actually, it's over 30 years at this point. We were founded in 1987 in Des Moines, Iowa, and we moved our headquarters to Houston in 1997. And since then, we have grown pretty substantially. We have 60 employees now. We're a group primarily of CPAs and Microsoft technical engineers, and of course, there has to be some overhead like me, so we have some of those as well. We're especially proud to have over 3,000 clients in all 50 states and 23 different countries. Now, we in fact just instituted a large foundation in Switzerland. We just started that project, one of our solutions. Last year we bought Software Link, which was another large Sage partner, and that has really added to our growth at that time. We have been awarded the Killer VAR Award twice. This is an award that is presented by Accounting Technology magazine, and they give it to the top 5 software resellers in the country, and we've been fortunate enough to win that twice. We've also been named the Technology Pace Setter, which is among the top 50. Every time that the award has ever been offered, we are in the top 100 VARs is in a number of different different organizations. We're also a member of the Sage $1 Million Club. We're very proud of that. We're a large Sage reseller here in the United States. Will we go to the next slide, please? So this goes through our history, showing largely what we just discussed in terms of being established and moving to Houston, adding web design and hosting and IT services. And then next slide, please. A graphical representation of where we have offices physically. So you'll see that our headquarters are there in Houston, but we have offices throughout the Midwest, all along the East Coast. We have a very large presence in Atlanta, and we're building out our California and West Coast establishment as well. Next slide, please. A few of the different services that we offer. In addition to selling ERP and implementing ERP and accounting software, we web design. We build our own internal IP for our customers. So we have some bank reconciliation software that we've developed internally. We have different solutions, including some tremendous quality control solutions that we've built out. And of course, we also provide managed services such as IT, hosting. We do break-fix IT services for our local customers, those sorts of things. Next slide, please. These are a few of the international certifications and compliance standards that our software maintains. So you can see that they're in the software that we present and that we implement for our customers has gone through rigorous testing from many different organizations. Really not worth sitting here and going through each one of them, but you can see even the Chinese think that we have a good solution for their citizens. Next slide, please. There's a few of the software solutions that we resell. Sage is one of our largest ones, but we also sell Abila is a not-for-profit. Certify is an expense management software. We sell business intelligence. We sell a number of different alerts and document management solutions, and there are others as well. Next slide, please. Here's a few of our IT partners. We're big VMware partners. We use LabTech for the security and ESET as well. We use Office 365 internally, recommend it very strongly to our customers. It's an excellent solution. Global Data Vault is a off-premise backup solution that many of our customers use who have not yet decided to go to the cloud. It allows you to replicate your data off-site from your location, so that if there's ever any kind of a physical disaster in your location, you can just remote into their location and start doing work just as if you were at your own office. Next slide, please. This is some of the IP that we offer. This shows how the safety solution is built out. Really don't want to go into this too deeply. We could spend an hour discussing just these items and how our food safety solution works. So next slide, please. Some more information on our managed services and IT. So you can see that you can obtain all or only a couple of pieces or only one. If you just want you'll see there in the bottom right hand corner, if all you want is IT support, we're more than happy to provide that to you. We also provide up there in the upper left hand corner, you can see we provide telephony and other sorts of communications. We'll work with you with your infrastructure. We'll work with you with your ability to, just your basic business solutions. We provide secure, anti-phishing and anti-spam solutions. And we will also, even there, if you look on the bottom left-hand corner, we provide strategic IT services for our customers. So we do a fractional chief information officer service for many of our customers. You don't need, you're not big enough to really require somebody who's coming in and working a 50, 60-hour week and taking up a C-level salary. But you do need that sort of strategic look at how your IT infrastructure should be designed. We with that as well. Next slide, please. All right, that wraps it up. Thank you very much. As Kevin has said, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box and we will get with you on that. You can reach me at phil@kerrconsulting.com if you have any other questions. And of course, our website is just www.kerrconsulting.com, where you can see the different solutions and services that we offer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for the informative presentation. Kerr has been our solution partner. They have been very active and they are very knowledgeable about BIM, our asset maintenance and inventory management software that we'll be talking about in detail actually right now. At the moment, I'd like to turn it to ETR Gonzalez, our pre-sales software engineer at Bimser International Corporation. ETR, would you like to continue? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give an overview of the product of BIM. And after just a couple of slides, I'm going to log into the demo environment and I'm going to show in real time how we can manage our assets, our inventory, and how we can make sure that we keep the optimal levels of stock over time. So here in this slide, you see that on Beam, there are different modules that are available to our customers, and not all of them have to be used at the same time. So we offer some basic modules here on the left, and then optional modules, which, for example, are, on the left side, we have the asset management, the inventory management, maintenance management, and personnel management. And then we can also use Beam for purchasing management, for energy consumption management, for field service management, or facility management. So we'll be talking in detail today about this left section, which are the basic modules. So keep in mind that, even though Beam has a lot of functionality available, these are the aspects that we're going to be covering today. So before I log into the demo environment, let me just share with you a couple of features and benefits that Beam offers. So for example, Beam is a modular product, which means it is flexible and scalable. Our clients only have to buy the modules that they need. So some of them, they start with the basic modules, and then they move on and they start using maybe the purchasing management too. And it is a product that can be integrated with many systems like ERPs, manufacturing execution systems, GIS, all of these systems. We offer a workflow management on Beam. So for example, we use EBA, which was introduced by Kevin during his presentation. EBA is another one of our products, and that's the one for document and workflow management. So what we can do is design the company's workflow. So whatever workflow that the client is currently using in terms of how they manage different approvals during a work request process, or approvals during a purchasing request, we can always design those workflows, link them to Beam, and then start using them. So it's kind of customizable, and we're offering a lot of flexibility that way to our clients. And obviously, it's a product that is going to work with different types of permissions and authorizations, so that different users, based on their roles, have access to different parts of the system. Another great benefit of Beam is the reporting tool that we have. We can create reports and generate them automatically. So basically what we can do is schedule these reports, and there is no need for someone to start working on those reports on Excel. It takes a lot of time, and it's time consuming really, and we don't need someone to take care of that if we can simply generate it with Beam and maybe schedule it, so that if it's a report that we have to access, every single Friday, for example, before we leave the office, then we can simply schedule it. We get an email with a PDF, and that's it. We don't need that employee just creating all of those reports periodically. And then at the bottom, you can see the feedback that we have received from current clients. So they have been able to see a reduction in the maintenance cost between 15 and 20%. But what is more impactful is the fact that they are able to reduce the number of failures even up to 80%. So those are some of the numbers that we have, the feedback that we receive in terms of the maintenance, but obviously also in the inventory, making sure that we are not keeping excess of inventory is also helping a lot of our clients reduce the cost. So with that, I'm going to be logging into the demo environment right now so that I can show you how the system looks like. So right now what you can see is that I've logged into Beam with an administrator user. They have permission to the full functionality of the system. And the first thing that we see when we open Beam is this dashboard, which is customizable. And we can have different dashboards depending on who's accessing the system, right? So as a manager, maybe I'm interested like in the operation times or work order counts, which work orders are opened, closed, canceled, total number of work orders. We can access the total cost of the maintenance based on the labor cost, material cost, and service cost. So all of these graphs that are either charts, graphs, even tables, some other bar graphs here, all of this is customizable, and our clients are going to be able to see here the KPIs even that they'd like to see. So clicking on the left side, we access the main menu of Beam. We see that, for example, the asset management, the maintenance, material, personnel, and the purchasing management options are available right now. And we also have the system settings for the configuration of the system. So let me show you just a brief overview of how the system works. And obviously, if you're interested in the product, we can always set up another demo, and spend more time with you showing you the product. So let's just start with the overview. So for example, for asset management, we can transfer all of our equipment in bulk at the beginning during the configuration process. We can do that just uploading all the information through an Excel sheet. And all of these assets that are going to be present on the system, they can be in different locations. So typically our clients, maybe they have different branches that they want to manage separately, right? So you see that there is one operation for New York, one for New Jersey, a couple more examples here. And each operation or company can have different layers of these tree structure that you see right now. So this is the more common structure right here, the 4 levels, but we can offer as many levels as the client wants. So first we have the operation, the cost center, the department, and finally we can list all of our assets here. So this way we can, for example, set a responsible manager for each location, and those employees can only access that location, and then the manager or the supervisor of the whole system, they can access the complete set of locations here on Beam. So some of the information that we're going to be able to store here on the system in terms of assets are going to be, for example, the asset code, the description, the status, the type. All of these fields that appear on bold are mandatory, and the rest of them and the rest of the tabs are optional, which means that our clients have a lot of flexibility in terms of the information that they can store in the system. Some of them, they want to keep track of the warranty information, the last maintenance date. Maybe they want to keep track of the coordinates. If they want to track this asset, we can also integrate with a GPS system. We can set some default values for the work orders that we create. We can list the materials that this asset is composed of. We can assign a maintenance team here, assign a maintenance plan, upload pictures, upload documents. All of these things are optional in the system. And obviously our clients are finding it very useful to be able to also create their own fields. So we can always add new fields if our clients require it. And I think this is the most interesting feature about Beam. Our prospects and clients are always raving about this tool, which is the graphical asset tree that we see right here. This is a layout of a facility. This is a very simple example. So we can upload an image of a warehouse or the facility, and we can do this, by room, by floor, however we want to manage this. But let's just say, that we have this facility and we have placed our assets here, right? So whenever we hover over the assets, we see some information about it. Here we have one of the tracks, and we see the status, the group, they belong to the department, all of these. And if I click on it, then we can create a work request directly from it, create a work order, show the history of that asset. And all of this is going to help not only managers, to see what's going on with the system right now, but also perform all of these options without having to look for them, from the main menu. So right now, all of the assets appear on green, right? That means that all the assets are working correctly, all the machines, the machinery is working correctly, and there is not a problem going on. If they turn red, then the legend here means that, if they turn red, there is an open work order, or if they turn blue, maybe there is a preventive maintenance work order. So this way, just at a glance, we can see what's going on in the facility in real time. And for example, some of the reports that we can generate with Beam, let me just quickly show how they look like. I'm just going to be showing a very simple example so that you get an idea of how it looks like. So if we want to access an asset status report, right, we only want to see the status of the assets. We can use the filters here to maybe select the asset in particular or all the assets in the cost center or department. So I'm just gonna select the New York operation here for this report. I'm gonna click on prepare, and just within a few seconds, we're gonna have this report, that is gonna show all of that information that we requested. So we see that 8 assets are being used. One is being rented to another company, maybe one is not used right now. And you can see here that these kinds of reports can be exported into many different formats, and they can also be scheduled, just like I mentioned during the presentation. So if we want to access this status report, like maybe every single Friday, we can set it this way. We can send it to different email accounts, user groups, and this is going to save a lot of time and money because all of these reports are going to be created automatically. Then, for example, if we are already, managing all of our assets, the next thing to do would be to maintain them, right? So with BIM, we can cover 3 different types of maintenance operations. They can be corrective, preventive, and predictive maintenance operations. So basically, if there is something wrong with the machine right now and we figure it out, like we suddenly realize there is something wrong, we can create a ticket, a work request, right? Which is what I'm going to do right now. But maybe we can also schedule maintenance operations in the future to make sure that maybe we are maintaining each asset every 6 months, or this particular asset needs to be checked out every month to make sure it's working. And then the third type would be to try and predict what is the health of the machine and which pieces or spare parts are gonna fail in the future. So with BIM, we can also take care of those operations, and we can get alerts in the system saying, make sure to change this spare part because it's likely to fail within the next month, maybe. So here I'm going to create just a fast request. This is something that can be done also from the phone. So we offer a mobile application for Android and iOS too. And typically, the maintenance team is not going to be in an office setting, right? They're not going to be close to a computer all the time. So it's very useful for them to have just a phone or a tablet they can use and create the work requests from it and access information about the assets and the setup instructions or maintenance steps that they have to follow. So for example, if we create a new work request, we can select the priority. Maybe this is an emergency. We can select one of our assets here in the system. We could select one truck. Then we can, for example, we can be as specific as we want, but in the work type section, we can say that we need a mechanic for this. And the maintenance and failure code is also something that each company configures, so that the list that appears here are their own codes and own code descriptions. So maybe, for this example, let's just click that this is a mechanical failure, and we can add some more notes, like an explanation, of what is going on in the system right now. So whenever we click on save, this is going to go to a pool of work requests that I have access to right now because I am also the manager, right? So we have different types of users on BIM, and we are going to have requesters who are only able to access the work request section, and we have the manager who are going to be dispatching all of these work requests, and finally we have the maintenance team, right? So we see that this is the work request that I just created. It's gray right now because it hasn't been approved yet. If it turns red, it has already been approved, and I won't be able to open it again. So if I am right now reviewing the work request, I can select who I want to work on this maintenance operation, right? So I can review it. Again, there are many fields that are optional for some of our companies, like we can keep track of the asset status, or who approves this. And right now, just by simply selecting here who's going to be responsible for it, that's enough to move to the next step, basically. So this is a third step workflow that we follow. Okay, this is one of the most basic workflows that we have on BIM, where someone creates a ticket, someone else approves it, and then finally we have the maintenance member working on it, right? So this is the one that I just created and approved. Now it's red, and that maintenance member is going to be able to access it through their work orders. So they're going to be also getting notifications. Okay, so let's look for, you know, that one that was just created. I'm going to look for that track 001 that I just opened. Okay, maybe I missed the number. I can even open this one. It's for another track. So here what we're going to be able to see is how much time we spend on all of these maintenance operations. So we're going to be able to track the time that the asset is working, the notification duration, the reaction time, the maintenance time, the downtime, all of these. And then the maintenance team is going to be able to list here how much time they spend on this maintenance operation. So for example, you know, maybe this takes, you know, like 1 hour maybe. And this is the time is going to be updated, and then we're going to be using the labor cost, the cost of the materials that we use. You know, we can select them here from the list, and we can select how many pieces of these we changed right during these maintenance operations. So maybe one of these filters, and this is going to update the inventory levels, of course. So if we have someone say that they are taking 3 pieces, then the inventory levels are going to be updated, obviously. And finally, we have the services section. This is going to list here all of the external services needed to complete this maintenance operation. And, you know, with these 3 sections, all of this is going to incur in a cost, and we're going to be able to follow that here. So whenever, you know, I save this work order, the labor cost, the material cost, and the service costs are going to be updated, and we're going to be able to get that total maintenance cost for this particular task. So maybe in the future, once we have, you know, historic data about how many times this asset has broken in the past and how frequently we're changing some spare parts, we can make decisions such as, is it worth it to keep maintaining this asset, or are we better off just purchasing a new machine? Okay, so that's how the life cycle of a workflow request would be. And obviously we can also create reports from the maintenance section. And, you know, you can see here that there are many different types of reports that we can create. So we can follow the maintenance history for each asset, the failure causes. We can track the labor performance report, you know, how much time they are spending on all of these operations. And obviously we're going to be able to see on like a calendar what they do, what, you know, the maintenance team works on every single day, and we can compare, you know, how much time it takes them to complete all of those maintenance operations. And now for the material section, which is what it's the focus today, which is the inventory management. Here you can see in the system that just like we had with the assets, we can transfer all of our materials in bulk at the beginning. And again, these are, for example, some of the labels that we can, some of the fields that we can have here for the materials. So the code, the description, we can group them. You know, we can have groups, subgroups. We can have measurements. We can have like the barcode number, the model, all of these fields. You know, like the codes, the statements, warehouse parameters, which vendors we use to get these materials from. Maybe some documents, warehouse totals, the companies that we've purchased from in the past. So all of this information is accessible for each material. But then, you know, once we are working with a system and we want to see where a specific material is, we can use the item total section here. So this is going to list the material groups available right now in the system. So you see that this last group is about truck parts, right? So we can see right here that there are going to be 2 different warehouses right now in the system that have different truck parts, right? So let's see, you know, in the warehouse number 1, we see that we have 5 filters, and the warehouse number 2, we have 15. So what we could do is transfer some of them, you know, between warehouses instead of creating a new purchasing request. We can keep track of the minimum and maximum levels of stock. We can calculate the item totals in the system, and just like Bill explained, we're going to be able to manage the extent of inventory, make sure that we are keeping the optimal values for the inventory. So obviously the reporting tool is going to be very useful here, because you're going to be able to see, that maybe you were purchasing some of the spare parts, but you're not really using them, and maybe it's even in your head that you need more and more of this particular item, but then the reports show that that's not true, that you really don't need to keep that much inventory for some of these spare parts. And just to finish the overview, I can show you, for example, that there is a resource occupation calendar here on Beam, so that we can track the work that our team completes. So we could select, for example, my user here, and we can see maybe how I stack up with other employees, and see for example, that I had one maintenance operation, yesterday at this time, and we can access some more information and review if this was done correctly. So I think we can go back now to the presentation. We can have the Q&A session right now. Thank you for joining the webinar. We'll be reading all of those questions and answering them in order. So please stay connected, and thank you.
Thank you, Etiyar. Meanwhile, we have received some questions in our chat box, in private and in public chat box that we have. So one of the questions that we have received is about inventory management. So this question looks like is for you, Bill. So the question is, let me read it for you. Could you explain why you use GIMROI is the most important element of the inventory system? Bill, would you like to address this question?
Yes, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
So net profit is equal to gross profit minus operating expenses. If you convert that to a per dollar of inventory basis, you can determine what GIMROI you need to achieve in order to make a predetermined net income. So for example, if somebody's at 5% net income and they want to get to 10%, and they've identified how much excess inventory they've got, there's a calculation you can do to tell you how much, based on the GIMROI you would shoot for, how much you have to cut the inventory and what the impact would be to the P&L. So, I mean, for example, if someone had $1 million in inventory and was sitting with 20% excess inventory, and his carrying cost was 25%, that would be a hit to the P&L of $50,000 a year. If you add that over 5 years, that's $250,000 plus the cash you got up front from the excess inventory of $200,000. That's a total of $450,000 over 5 years, and that came from essentially understanding how to use GIMROI.
Thank you, Bill. Well, inventory is very important for any company. You cannot have too much. It's basically money, your capital, but you cannot have less than what you need either. So you have to manage that wisely. And thank you for these tips, Bill. We have another question. It looks like a technical question, and looks like it is for Etiyar. Thank you for the presentation and the demo. Thank you. So would you please confirm that mobile app of Beam works in iOS and in Android as well? And there is also a follow-up question. And when I am managing the inventory in Beam, is it possible to integrate code? So there are two questions, Etiyar. The first one is about mobile app, and the other one is about barcode integration capability of Beam.
Yes, so with Beam, we can use the mobile application. So the benefits of this is that if the client has all of their assets tagged, right, either with a barcode or a QR code, RFID, whatever they are using, we can scan that barcode or QR code and pull up information about it. So for example, if we are just on the field and we are going to be working with an asset, we can pull up information about it. We can create a work request directly from it. We can upload pictures of the failure. And obviously, if we are part of the maintenance team, we're also going to be able to see the maintenance plan that is available for that particular asset, and it's going to list the different steps that we have to follow. So right there from the app, we can enter all of those fields that I showed, about how much time you spend on something, what materials you use, and obviously the barcoding also works for the inventory. So if you have to go to the shelf and pick up whatever, a spare part that you need, just by scanning that code, you're going to be reducing the inventory levels automatically by selecting the number of pieces that you need. So obviously the mobile app is very useful when we're talking about BIM.
Thank you, Ether. Well, as you see, we put the contact information of all the speakers, all the panelists of these webinars. So feel free to get in touch with any of us if you have any further questions, if you need additional information, demo, and if you'd like to discuss further, feel free to contact us anytime you like. We have another question. If you have SAP, can BIM system take care of inventory management? Yes, correct. BIM can manage inventory in integration with SAP as well. Basically, what we need is web service APIs. We can do the integration to SAP or Oracle or Microsoft products or Sage or Acumatica, any system that's available in the market which can offer web service APIs. BIM can work with any of them. So to address your question, yes. ETR, I just jump ahead, but am I correct in terms of these integrations to an ERP system with service APIs?
Yeah, sure. BIM can work with many, many different systems, and it's just very helpful because some of our clients are currently using solutions that they work for them and they don't want to change that. So what we can do is simply do the integration and allow them to manage, for example, the maintenance part on BIM, but let them use the rest of the system that they're currently using so that they're comfortable with the solution that they have.
Thank you. Well, we are getting to a pretty good question, so and we have limited time, so I'll just move on with another one. This is about inventory management. Looks like Bill, this question is for you. Could you do a simple calculation of the hit to the P&L, profit and loss, basically? Could you give us some information about this, Bill? So eventually, P&L is very important. That's vital. It shows either companies in red or black, what it is doing. And we understand from your presentation that inventory means capital. That's money, right? So we need to manage it very wisely. So in this sense, if you can give us an example and to address this, great.
So there's a couple ways that improving your inventory turns and increasing GMROI makes you more money. The most obvious one is when you get in stock. So let's say, for example, you have a out of stock ratio or line. Sometimes people call it line item fill, and the line item fill is 90%, which means that 10% is not being filled on time. And let's just say you could cut that in half and therefore get back 5%. If that's lost sales, then you're going to get back 5% of your sales times your gross profit. So if your gross profit is for 80% and you're getting back 5%, you multiply the 5% times the gross profit percent times the sales, and that's an increase to the P&L. The second way it impacts the P&L is with the carrying cost of inventory. So there's many elements that cost you money for the pleasure of owning inventory. It can be anywhere from 25 cents. If you're in the retail business, it could be 45 cents, the most expensive item being floor space cost. So if you reduce a dollar's worth of excess inventory, you get back that carrying cost, and that impacts the P&L. So some is in the area of increasing your gross profit, and the other is in the area of reducing operating expenses. And what I pointed out was that Gimroy using the Gimroy equation and looking at your own P&L and balance sheet, you can figure out a target Gimroy that you have to achieve, which then tells you how much inventory you're to have. It's a very integrated process to answer that question.
Thank you, Bill. Of course, if you have any more questions about what Bill's doing, feel free to get in touch with him anytime you like. You have his contact information on the screen, so you can have further discussions. I have another question. It looks like a technical question, looks like for you, Ethier. So during the demonstration, you have showed a dashboard, which was very colorful. Can it be also configurable for inventory item management?
Yeah, so that dashboard was showing some data, random data that we have stored in the system. If we have an employee only interested in seeing inventory management information, then we can simply create more cards for you, and they will be showing up in that dashboard.
That is great. So the dashboard is configurable and can be designed as you wish. Inventory management and inventory items are also part of dashboard as well. Another question is asking about how expensive it is, the BIM, and inventory management system is affordable for small and mid-sized companies. It is affordable for mid-sized and small-sized companies as for BIM. You can have just inventory management module if you like, or you can have a couple of different modules of BIM. So just like Ethier mentioned earlier, that's modular, so it makes it affordable. If you like to talk more about pricing and availabilities and how it can be deployed, feel free to get in touch with me. My contact information is on the screen. Kevin Devecioglu, Managing Director of Bimser International, and my email address is on the screen as well. I think our time is up, and we have got a lot of questions, great questions. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I'd like to also thank our presenters, Bill, Phil, Ethier. Thank you very much for your time. And we look forward to seeing you in our coming webinars. Webinars scheduled regularly every month. And so far, we have got pretty good feedback, and we are very happy with the support that we have been getting from the market support and the interest, of course. I would like to thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars. Thank you, and have a nice day.